If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah blah blah, blah blah.
Sending out good vibes,
Blah blah
good vibes,
blah,
good vibes,
blah blah.
good vibes, good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection, and put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track, shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. Coming at you this week with friend of the show, Chris Cottrell, talking about the Carolina Bays. You probably have a fun little drinking game if you take a shot every time someone says Carolina Bays during this interview, and you probably end up pretty buzzed out.
I don't know. We didn't overdo it too much. I don't think.
It came up on it came up on the YouTube and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't notice it either. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said anything, but it made me laugh.
Yeah.
It did make me laugh. I mean, I think it's pretty, as to where they came from or how they happened, I don't know, but that they're impact sites of something. I don't know if they're from the ice as a secondary event or whether they're just from impacts, but there definitely seems to be something there. I mean, it's very clearly spelled out as far as I'm concerned. I'm surprised that I haven't heard more about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just do his bio here quickly before we even get into our ramblings, our lazy ramblings in the introduction here. But Chris Cottrell is an independent researcher, geoscience enthusiast, and creator of the YouTube channel Dabbler's Den. A high school teacher in Kingsland, Georgia, recognized for his in-depth investigations into Earth's geological anomalies, particularly the enigmatic Carolina Bays. He bridges mainstream geology and alternative theories, engaging a global audience with his meticulous research and passion for uncovering Earth's mysteries. X.com/dabblersden and YouTube at Dabbler's Den. Yeah.
There you have it.
Good stuff. He's got some good videos there. And he's got a good one on the Azores too, talking about the geology of the Azores. I just added like 12 studies or 14 studies to our bibliography for Nick and the Azores. Like, I can't believe all the studies showing pre-Portuguese evidence of humanity there before the Portuguese. Like, it's pretty crazy. Something was going on way back then, yeah, which makes you wonder, like, how far back then, right? But were they just sailing there 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, or was it there is some megalithic stuff there too, so pretty interesting.
Of course, people want to skip our lazy rambles, get right to the interview with Chris. There's always a timestamp in the show notes. You just go click on that. It'll take you right to the chat with Chris, and you won't have to listen to whatever we get up to here, which remains to be seen.
Probably about hunting and building and just what's going on. And I mean, I do have a listener email I could read too, which is fun.
My back's been messed up all week, so I'm just finally getting going again. Today probably is the first day it's still a little iffy now while I'm sitting down. I don't like sitting down for long periods of time. It's not loving the truck, but it's mostly back. And I had to cut out that whole elk during the process.
How is it sleeping, like lying down?
It was shitty for a while, but it's better now.
And what's the most comfortable position? Standing up? Just standing up, doing nothing?
Doing something, I would say at this point. Standing up and moving around a little bit.
Walking maybe? Or like, can you walk?
Walking is better now.
But walking's kind of probably what hurt it, eh?
Well, I probably would have got better real quick, I'm thinking. I probably would have got better real quick if I would have just been able to relax it right away. But it was just like one thing led to another, and I just seemed to have shit to do every day with the back messed up. So, but it seems like I bounced back. Good timing, just about ready to go again. I took this weekend off, and I was still dealing with the elk. I mean, I just finally, I think Friday, maybe this Friday morning, I finished cutting up the last bit of it. I still haven't done the grinding.
Yeah, a lot of work process in those animals, eh?
Yeah, and the grinding can wait a little bit. I can probably. I mean, my back was feeling a whole lot better, and then I cut up most of the elk the other day, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I cut up most of it, and then Nate came over and helped me do a lot of that, and then he brought his crossbow, so we were shooting that thing, and we got out. I mean, the crossbow we were shooting. He was shooting at 100 yards, getting bullseyes at 100 yards with the crossbow with the scope on it. So it's a long way to go get the arrows. So I jumped on the quad, and I was actually feeling pretty good driving the quad around. And then about an hour later, it was like worse than ever. Like
But you got to wow, you got a target really after that? It was worse than ever.
yeah, I was ripping around in the quad and it felt all right. I was like, yeah, look at me, I'm loosening up. And then like the next day, I could barely fucking move. That night, I didn't get a lot of sleep because you just can't find a position lying down that gets it. But now I'm back to normal, not back to normal enough that I'm sleeping and all that at least.
Do you have a target set up there? Like, should I bring my bow with me, or
I do have a target. Yeah. Yeah. You can bring your bow.
should I bring? Are we gonna be shooting stuff? Like, are those crossbows? Are they legal in Canada, or
Yes.
are they not gonna do like a buyback program or a crossbow grab? Like
You have a
grab
crossbow? No, I haven't seen your crossbow yet.
I don't have a crossbow. I'm just.
Oh, well, Nate's
I have
crossbow.
my old compound bow that I was thinking about bringing. Do you have?
Yeah, the targets are up right now. Well, I was shooting just like a couple hours ago.
If I should bring it out, maybe I should bring both mine, and you can play around with it.
I even got a little backdrop there so that if you miss the target, it hits the plywood.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was picturing. Yeah.
It's kind of a bitch to get it out of the plywood. Not really recommended, but yeah, we're going hard with the bows around here right now. It's only like I mean, bow season will start for most of my buddies in a week from today.
Can you rent bows at all, like crossbows and stuff? Or?
I don't know. A good crossbow ain't cheap either. The ones I was looking at was like $2,500.
Wow,
more than like a new rifle.
Yeah,
you get a new rifle or these crossbows. But I mean, I think that crossbow probably you could take something down at 150 yards,
and that's still considered bow hunting. That's still considered bow hunting.
No, that's not considered bow hunting. You're allowed to hunt with that in bow season if you get a letter from your doctor saying that you have a bad something so that you can't pull back a bow. That's how my buddy Nate does it. Because he actually legit has a shoulder problem. So his shoulder's messed up. He couldn't bow hunt anymore. And then he got into the crossbow, which does, I mean, some of these guys are shooting animals at, 80, 90, 100 yards. It's a lot of my range with the regular bow. I feel a lot better doing it with a scoped crossbow. The interesting thing about it is it's just, you got 100 bolts for that thing. You're probably in pretty good shape for a long, long time because you get it back most of the time. I mean, you're going to lose some to get to the point where your arrow is useless. But if you're a decent shot with it, you should, get how many animals you think you get out of an arrow?
Well, it's not the animals; it's the target shooting and losing them in the grass.
Well, yeah, that happens less when you have a scoped crossbow. Unless it's pretty windy, it's pretty on target. There's a lot less like human because it's just a scope, right? It's a scope, just like a rifle. I'm just
picturing us like shooting. I lost how many arrows in the grass that day?
Oh yeah, you lose so many arrows, and that's why you need the back. You need the backstop so that the arrows have something to hit if you miss the target, and then you just really can't miss the target. That's really what it boils down to. Is you got to be. And I usually don't miss a target, so I'm in pretty good shape that way. But I've kind of scaled system, so there's like a little target in front, then a medium target that's kind of shot to shit behind it, and then a piece of plywood. So got a couple barriers there. We got to shoot
hay bales or something like that, or
you could, but I mean, you really just got to hit the target. I mean, do you miss the target that much that you need a hay bale behind the 4x4 sheet of plywood?
No, I don't. But
If you can't hit the 4x4 sheet of plywood, you could argue to say you have no business shooting a bow.
No, I meant like instead of the plywood. So because it's hard to get it out of the plywood, and the plywood must wreck your bows faster than a hay bale would or your arrows.
Yeah, the problem is I might just go right into the hay bale. I mean, you know, just
I don't know, maybe.
fucking gone.
Yeah, maybe.
Find them when the horse eats it. The
So
plywood's not.
we're having a meetup at your place. If there's any local people or anybody that's still,
Yeah, it's just a few days from now.
yeah, that'll be fun.
Should be a fun little hangout. Yeah. And then, of course, it's about a month away from the hunting, which should also be a fun thing. Still room still room for a couple people. If someone wants to jump into that, they can email Graham or I, but it's going to be quite the adventure. I don't know if Graham's coming yet, but we know for sure Johnny and Tony are coming. I'll try and get Miles or Nate out for parts of it as well. Maybe the whole thing. It'd be nice to get Miles along for the whole thing, but it looks like, you know, for a couple of $100 more, these guys can shoot a bear. So, I mean, I think Tony's going to shoot a black bear while he's here, which he seems to be quite excited about. I know I'd be excited about it if it went from just being able to shoot birds to actually being able to shoot something. And then,
hang on. You got to explain how this process is happening then.
Well, you can just buy a bear tag. So bears.
Okay, so you're buying a bear tag because you can't just buy any tag, right? So it's like there's a list
and some white-tailed deer. Generally, the interesting thing about whitetails, if they were coming in November, we could probably get them some whitetails pretty easily. But when they're coming here, there's only 1 or 2 zones open. We could probably still get them a whitetail. My concern is that the zones we got into might be somewhat saturated with other hunters. Whereas I can get him into other zones where we can chase bears where there won't really be any other hunters yet. It's a lot easier to run into a bear at that time of year because the whole province is open.
Speaking of bears, I mean, didn't you have a couple treading by your trail cam recently?
Yeah, those were grizz. So
they look pretty big.
Yeah. That's probably one of those bears is probably the one I crept up on.
That trail cam, I can't believe how many animals you see there. It's insane.
Yeah, I had one today of a bear playing today or yesterday. It might have been yesterday of a bear just like sitting in the water there, just hanging out, sitting in the water like up to his waist. Maybe Tony's bear. Because the good thing
not a grizzly though, like you can't get a grizzly, you have to get a black bear, right?
It'll be a black bear.
It's a black bear tag. So you have to know the difference.
It's pretty easy to tell the difference.
What is the difference?
A grizzly is huge and brown.
Oh, instead of black? But some of the bears you've showed me, the black bears have been massive too.
You get pretty big. There's a pretty big bear on the cam right now. And the good thing about the bears, especially so for Johnny just going to Ontario, it's pretty easy. You could do the meat thing, you know? If you just freeze it, have it frozen, jump on the plane with some ice packs in there. It's only 4-hour flight. You know, you have it back in the freezer in 6-7 hours. That's not bad. But when you're flying to England, man, and then it's like, you got an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before you even get on the 9-hour flight. And then you got another 3 or 4 hours in London before you get home. It's just pretty impossible to do. And I don't even know that they let you bring meat in. But it does look pretty easy to bring in a bear rug or a bear sort of wall mount. A lot of guys do the bear and they'll do it as a wall mount, I guess, because if you want it to be a rug, you got to put it through a tumbler or you got to somehow like soften it up. I've already been thinking of ways I could just make a tumbler here and just hook it up to like a dirt bike or something like that, you know, so let it run for a couple days, beat the shit out of it. Anyway, that's pretty easy to import. It's only like 67 pounds. Then it's $20 to export it from Alberta. And then to get the rug done is another, I don't know, $1,200 or so. I'd have to price out what the going rate is. But the beauty of it is we could just cape it out, wrap it up, and throw it in the freezer until, you know, that decision is made down the road. It doesn't have to be made right now. You can decide to do it later. And I've got a bear in there right now that I got to practice doing here. I'm going to practice doing it probably pretty soon, start trying it to see how it goes. So, you know, there could be a foreseeable time when I might be able to pull it off. I do have a local resource now that knows how to do it that I could get some tips from. So See how it goes, but that'll be the hunting. That and duck season. I mean, duck season opens in, I think, 2 weeks from tomorrow. A week after Kakin, so a week after bow season opens. We're pretty much in it now. I did
Cool.
buy a cheap camera that I can wear. So we'll see how that goes. I think Jesse got one too, so maybe we'll try and see if we can't get some hunting footage together. I'm gonna bring it out in the boat tomorrow, see if I can get it working properly. And it looks like I could just strap this thing when I'm bow hunting, I actually got it strapped right to the stabilizer on the bow. That's right out on the front of the bow while you're shooting. Or you can use the bow as a camera mount, I guess, when you're not shooting. I don't know. But we're gonna get some cameras. We'll try filming some stuff. See how it goes. Could be total shit show. I mean, I bought a cheap camera. It was only $139.
Yeah, that's what I wondered about putting them on your weapons. Like, how often are you pointing your weapons where you want to be recording?
The bow you kind of are, because you're just sort of walking with it forward all the time with your. It's not all the time, but most of the time when I'm bow hunting, I've got my bow sort of out in front of me. It's the only real.
It's the only real comfortable position to hold it, kind of.
Yeah,
You're not strapping it over your shoulder like Legolas.
yeah, I kind of go back and forth between my hands, but it also comes with a little wrist thing, so you can turn the thing on and off. I mean, ideally, you'd have a bunch of them, right? You'd have one on your fucking chest, maybe, and one. Because I tried putting it on my hat, but then I noticed when I was shooting my bow, it's looking off in the other direction. So it's like you need it right on your fucking forehead or something. And
Yeah.
so,
Because then you would cut the footage from your weapon at the right timing into like the footage, when you're.
yeah, you can see where you have one clamped on the end of your shotgun for sure.
Yeah.
It comes even with a little clamp, so it could go just. I mean, the only problem is I have to do it sort of upside down, I guess, so I could still see my sight. I don't really use my sight a whole lot when I'm duck hunting, to be honest. It sort of comes naturally. But so we might be able to get some good footage there. They're not the best cameras, but there's something to start with and just see if it's something we're serious about even before we. I don't want to drop $600 on a camera and then just sits on the shelf. Because it is a pain in the ass. It's bringing a pain in the ass into something that's already a pain in the ass. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's not like hunting is easy. It's not like just filming yourself fucking cruising around in a boat or something like, or water skiing, not saying those things are easy, but it's basically just put the GoPro on your head or whatever, put a camera on the boat and go water skiing like you normally would. I mean, to do the good hunting content, I mean, the guys that are doing it good, it's not just cameras on the people. They've also got a camera, like stationary cameras that are watching you walk around and drone footage, that kind of stuff too. But you got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, what have you been up to? You went to the lake. I'm going to the lake tomorrow fishing.
Yeah, just for an hour, a couple hours. Yeah, it was good. It was awesome. Yeah. To listen to some cool birds. And there's kind of a bird sanctuary nearby. I haven't been there yet, but there's some stuff around here that I still haven't really explored. But yeah, just trying to finish off the outside stuff before the end of summer here. And,
Looks like it's going to be hot for a while. I mean, we're in the middle of we're at the start of a heat event here. I don't know if you've seen my Instagram post.
No, but I can just imagine what it is.
You want to hear my alert?
Yeah, let me guess. It's like dark red, but it says like mid-20s or something, and it's a big heat event.
No, it's all text.
Okay.
A long duration heat event is expected over the next 7 days. Daytime high temperatures between 29 to 33 degrees Celsius are expected beginning today for communities all over central and northern Alberta, and will expand to include portions of southern Alberta starting on Monday. Overnight low temperatures, ranging between 9 to 13 degrees, will offer some relief from the heat.
This is an official.
I mean, what's 9 degrees like? 44?
Official warnings from the government, from your weather app, or what? Who sent this?
This is my weather app. The Weather Network.
Yeah.
However, because the event is expected to last 5 to 7 days, there's
Let me guess. You're not allowed to walk in the woods. What if they said you couldn't hunt?
There's a concern that the effects of the heat could build up over time. Watch for signs of heat exhaustion in yourself and others. Heat warnings may be expanded in the coming days as the event unfolds.
Wow. So 29 to 33, big. And this is, to be honest with you, it's been we haven't seen a week. Like usually you get a week or two of that weather. That's your hot spell for the summer, kind of. Maybe even hotter. Maybe it's like 36, 37 or something like that.
Oh yeah, man. High 30s for sure. A few years back,
You
man.
know, and now we're getting that in September, almost the very end of the summer, and it's a big warning.
I shared that, and a couple of people back home in Ontario were like, "Oh, good, that'll cut down on my heating bill for August."
My furnace was on today, I think.
Yeah, my furnace was on the other day. I mean, that's the thing. It's in August. It was that one day was what, like a high of 9 or something, low of 3, almost a frost. Almost a frost. They have. It seems to me like the elk are showing some rut behavior already, which would be fairly early. Which would be interesting to see if you started seeing some of that stuff start to change. Then you'd have to start thinking the cataclysm might be close. The elk rut shouldn't just change. That way, they're not rutting super hard yet. But I mean, it's all happening, buddy. We're there. It's hunting season is here. 2 weeks till ducks, a week till bow. It'll be a fun time. So email us if you want to get in on the hunt. Are you going to come?
I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it might be a game time decision if that's even possible. But we'll see how her health is and stuff. So today we had a respite for a couple hours where we could actually do something, but she's pretty much still struggling quite a bit. So what was I going to say about the oh yeah, what if this heat wave led to like forest fire warnings and stuff? I mean, what is there any pressure for Alberta to say like you can't go to the woods and go stop hunting? Like, would that be
no way that's happening? Alberta.
Are they allowed to hunt in Nova Scotia? Like, doesn't that restriction go through to the hunting season?
Well, I don't know what they're gonna do there. I don't know. I would imagine that hunting would maybe supersede it because it's not maybe a recreational activity. I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so. No. Hunting was on the list.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, you can't.
Well, that would be a problem. That sounds like a white people problem to me. I don't know about
all your forest rules.
Yeah, there's no way they'd get away with that with the Indians. For one, I don't think they get away with it in Alberta. Period, man. These people, we're pretty outdoorsy folk.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, Danielle Smith just came out and said, if you don't want to get shot, don't break into people's houses.
What a concept.
What a concept. I feel like Castle Doctrine, strangely enough, could be closer in Canada than ever.
It could be the thing that separates the parties right now. I mean, it's hard to believe that could be what do you call it? The voting. What is it called when you vote on something and it's the issue, the one issue that could
single issue voting.
Single issue voting, yeah. Castle Doctrine.
Guns in their house.
People are fed up. Well, they also, but aren't they changing the gun laws too? That a bunch of people's guns now have to get sent back or whatever.
That's what they keep saying. I wouldn't know anything about that.
I wouldn't know anything about that.
I don't keep any of those sorts of guns in my house.
I lost my gun in a fishing accident.
Yeah, the ones I had are gone. So don't bother asking.
I got an email here.
All right. Well, I don't have
anyways, the sheds are just an update. The sheds are done. The sheds are built, done. I even had the trim. I mean, pretty much done. Little finishes, but it was all the little finishes at the end. Plus, I've been helping a guy paint a church right now. I've been doing a lot of sanding in a church. I don't even want to talk about it, but it's been a really, really, really difficult job. So the outdoor work is almost done.
Not the bath though.
Not yet. It's no waiting for the flooring. They're not answering me on the flooring, so I don't know when that's coming in.
Did you pay for it already?
Half.
Half?
Yeah.
Well, better to get half ripped
I
off.
mean, to be honest with you, like I wanted it really fast, but now there's so much outside work to be done. It's just, I don't really, that's kind of more of a winter project.
Yeah, I'd just be wanting to have a bath. You guys,
I know. I am. I know. I know. That's the only reason. That's the main reason why I want to get it done fast.
well, I don't have any new supporters to mention, so
Oh, you don't have any new supporters? Well, I got an email to read. But yeah, support the show, people. We don't want to go to ads and stuff like that. I mean,
I want to go
imagine
there.
we've done 12 years, no ads,
Yeah,
and just free content, value for value.
I mean, we could do ads. It's the offers there.
And we can't even keep up to attrition anymore. Podcasting is so oversaturated, and we're in the top 0.5%, and we still don't get enough to keep up with attrition.
Well, if we get more than 0.5% of the people to donate, we'd be laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
America.ca/support. We love you if you do. We really do.
I got an email here though from Joel. I wanted to request a talk from you and Darren on the topic of ball lightning as well as smokeless fire, things of that type. The reason I'm spamming you regarding this is because I had a personal experience. Sometime in spring of 2024, I had taken my dog outside to tinkle around 11:30 p.m. It was a mostly clear night. I was facing east and looking up towards the sky. To my surprise, there was a blue ball of light in the air, motionless around the height of the nearby trees. It was only there for a short period of time, say a fraction of a second, before my surroundings lit up like lightning had struck where the orb of light was. I distinctly remembered seeing that the light hit the house across the street while engulfing my surroundings. I think about what happened that night almost every day. It was probably the most interesting thing that will ever happen to me. My dog is the only witness. Sometimes I ask her if she remembers what happened. I think she does. Just FYI, I live on the east end of Lake Erie, a few miles from the beach. We were talking about Lake Erie the other day. Is that with Randall, I think? Oh.
I wasn't there for that. If it was that, but we were also talking about UFOs and like in the Great Lakes.
Right. Oh yeah. With Richard Sauter on Grand.
Apparently, it's highly soldered after. Doesn't do a lot of interviews.
Oh really? Oh cool.
Yeah,
that's what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Oh cool. A few miles from the beach, there's a creek 200 yards in the direction I was looking when this happened, and cell towers in that direction too. I can see the blinking red lights close to a mile away. I live in a trailer park. Every place has an outside light post in the yard. Every night I take the dogs outside, wipe my glasses off, and look up at the night sky, but nothing like that happens. It kind of reminds me of what the Bledsoe family speaks of. Also, I've heard of the jinn appearing in this form from researchers. In pop culture, time travel from the Terminator movies also comes to mind. Thanks for my consideration you may have for my story. It's great to hear you guys asking for requests on roundups, so this is mine. I appreciate you guys. Please take care.
There you have it. The roundups. I mean,
it was a roundup email that we just did a roundup
episode. Missing some good roundup content. That's of course our other podcast, but you can check it out. I mean, this week I'm actually releasing a little special roundup of last month's roundup, so you can get a sample of what the members over at America outlawed. Because if you don't want to support us here, maybe you can support us there. You can check it out, see if that's something you're willing to pay for. Since this might not be. Clearly, it's not for 99% of you. But for the 1%, we love you. We couldn't do without you. We wouldn't do it without you. Anything else?
I think that's it. Just looking forward to seeing you in person next weekend and seeing some friends of the show that are coming in for the ranch contact at the cabin, the ranch CAC. It'll be fun.
It's going to be a good time. Let us know if you're coming or if you're not. It'd be good to get those finalized numbers. I'd like to know exactly who is 100% stopping by and when, so let us know. Other than that, we love you guys. Enjoy the chat with friend of the show, Chris Cottrell.
Chris Cottrell is with us from Dabbler's Den. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Seems like this is long overdue. We should have done this a while ago.
I know, that's what I was thinking too. I've seen you at the Cosmic Summit a couple of years in a row now, and
Yeah. We're kind of like hallway buddies. Every time, neither one of us can sit still long enough, really.
That's
and,
exactly what it is.
Yeah, and we don't want to miss anything either. So we would cross each other in the hallways during interviews because we don't want to miss what the other person was saying, and we would just like pretty much like eyebrow high five going by, But we would do, I don't know how many times we crossed each other in a hallway in the middle of
Lots,
the presentation.
like literally dozens. I mean,
Yeah.
because same thing. I can only sit for so long, and then I'm like, okay, I'll catch. There's always 2 or 3 going on at once. So it's fun.
Yeah.
So how did your experience go this year with your presentations?
This year, the presentation went well. I shared the stage with my research partner, Antonio Zamora. We had actually just published a paper that went out like just a couple days before the summit. So it was good for us to actually meet up in a physical location. And he kind of, I let him. I've spoken at the Cosmic Summit this was my third year. And so I kind of like took a step back and I introduced him. He had a 40-minute presentation put together. I jumped in at the end for like 20 minutes and talked about some of the timing issues and things like that. But it was good. It was a good kind of a recap. I'm kind of at the point where I've kind of said what I needed to say already. So it was good to have him be able to, tell his side of the story. It was cool.
Yeah, that's good, and not repeating the same sort of content.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Go ahead. So for our listeners who aren't familiar, what was your presentation on?
Yeah, I'm the Carolina Bay guy at the Cosmic Summit. Carolina Bays are fascinating. I've known about them for a couple decades now, and I've always found them fascinating. And a lot of people still have no clue what they are. And so, it is kind of neat to be able to go and do these presentations on something that I've become really familiar with. Like I said, even then, there's still a lot of people that have no clue what they are. So, I'm an educator by profession. That's what I do. I'm a secondary science educator in geoscience. I have, a couple master's degrees and things like that. And, but when it comes to something like this, I'm always amazed at how little people know about how the earth works. And, something as fascinating as these Carolina Bays should pique everybody's interest and then, cause them to learn as much as possible about, their surroundings. Because if you drive through the Carolinas, you're driving through thousands of these elliptical shaped depressions that are just everywhere. They're just everywhere.
And you can see them on the coast, right? I kind of looked at the map because I've heard some people talking about I think it was in Velikovsky's book. I forget what it's called now, Earth in Upheaval.
Mm-hmm.
But he talks about, he's like, you can just look on the coast and you can see the edges of some of them there. Cause he's like, The problem is that the ones that you're talking about all over the place, they're completely covered with trees and all that stuff. So they're a little harder to see, but he's like, you can really see them there. And the other thing he mentioned that I wanted to ask you about is that if he's like, I bet you if you could drain out the ocean, they're all over the place down at the bottom.
There probably was at one time. We'll talk about that later on because I think the ocean kind of scours them. If you go to the beach, it's flat at the beach, man. That wave action just demolishes any of that. And it's actually what I have kind of used to age these things. They're very difficult to kind of place when they were formed, especially when, the mainstream academic explanation is that they were created at multiple times over the past, ice age. And when we look at these, to us, it's like clear that they happened all at one time, very suddenly. It's a catastrophic event. And that's, I think, what causes most of the problems when it comes to the academic explanation versus the, catastrophism. But
can't they just say it happened at the same time as the dinosaur one? Because they seem to admit that one was fine in the Gulf of Mexico, however many million years ago.
Yeah, well, then we just found out about that. I mean, really, it was the 90s when they realized, those cenotes are the rims of a crater, and that kind of sealed the deal on a dinosaur extinction caused by an impact. So impact science is new; it's brand new. And when we look at these Carolina Bays, you're right about the coastal plain. That's where we see them the most because of the unconsolidated sediment. It's all sand and clay and things like that. And again, we'll look at some pictures in a minute and you'll see these elliptical shapes just over and over and over again. And we think those are actually secondary impacts. We don't think that those are primary impacts. There are some people that some of the first hypotheses of these Carolina bays being catastrophic were from like a severe meteor shower, and bolides were just popping off, left and right, and forming these things. But we've kind of, when I say we, I'm talking about myself and my research partners and George Howard included. We think that there was an impact into the ice sheet, the Laurentide ice sheet, at some time in the past. One of the big ideas is that it could have been during the Younger Dryas, which gets a lot of attention. I don't think so anymore. I don't think that the Carolina bays were formed at the Younger Dryas. I think it was actually a much older event, and it's because of what we were just talking about with the shorelines, the beaches scouring away the sand and making it perfectly flat, because you can see areas along the very extreme coastal plain where there are no Carolina bays, and when you get to like really old terraces, you find Carolina bays, and so you have to kind of go back in time and figure out, well, when was the ocean covering that area? And you find out that it's like 125,000 years ago, or it was 400,000 years ago. And so once you start looking at where the Carolina bays aren't, it kind of gives you a better idea of when they could have formed, which is good because it helps us with that whole catastrophic, that this could be a result of an impact. But it also puts a lot of shade on that terrestrial formation of these Carolina bays, that it's wind and water that created them, because those timelines are way older than what they say that they formed too. So it really, my whole purpose of doing all this is to get, the universities to start investigating them again and trying to actually figure out what they are. It's not my job to do that, right? I mentioned I'm a secondary science educator, and I started putting stuff on YouTube. It's not my job to do that. I'm doing what I can to get the university professors and their grad students and things like that to look at them. And so far it's been crickets. So
where would that place the timing then? Do you think it was still an impact to the Laurentide, but just pre-Younger Dryas? So
I think the impact happened over Michigan. There had to have been ice there, because we do think that these elliptical shaped depressions, and that's what our paper was about, was like proving how elliptical these shapes are. One or two would be fascinating. If you went out to the backyard and you saw like a huge elliptical shaped pond, you'd be like, wow, that's really cool. If you found another one right next to it, it'd be like bonkers. Like, what the heck is this all about? And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them that are like perfectly elliptical
within like 3% or something in your paper.
Yeah, within 3%. I mean, there's always going to be something that, it could be just erosion over time. It could be, time. It could be the elevation changes that happen there. It could be an old river or something like that. But within 3%, that's a very minor error margin. And we're just finding them left and right. I mean, there's just, thousands and thousands of them. So do you want to look at some pictures real quick?
Let's do that. Yeah.
I know that a lot of your audience is audio, so we won't spend a lot of time on it, but I don't know. Do I have control of this, or do you guys have control of
I think you do. Yeah.
You should.
I'll just fast forward through a couple of these. This is kind of the presentations that I gave at the Cosmic Summit. Nice. And you can find them online. And it's really the LiDAR that's really helped out, with actually being able to see these Carolina bays. This is an area in North Carolina. It's really close to, it's actually close to the North Carolina border, South Carolina, North Carolina border. And in the picture, you can see it's just a map, it's Google Earth, and you see the highways, you see the farms. And if you know what you're looking for, you can kind of start seeing a couple elliptical shaped, they're usually a little bit darker because they tend to be boggy and swampy. But when you click on the LiDAR, you just really see,
wow.
I mean, these elliptical shapes just pop out everywhere. They completely covers the terrain, everywhere
that something was coming in on an angle, since they're not perfectly round. Would they be round if it came straight on?
Yeah, if it came straight down, or if it came down with like asteroid forces, the impact would, a lot of times I get this brought up that, cosmic impacts tend to be circular depressions, and that's because there's so much energy behind them. Again, we think that the impact was I think anyways, that the impact was into the Laurentide ice sheet over Michigan, and I'll show you why I think that here in a little bit. And it was the secondary ejecta. It was the ice that was launched from Michigan, and which would have been a lot slower. Obviously, we have an initial impact that would have been huge. I think it was on par with that dinosaur killer. To be honest, I think it was a major deal. And it hit that ice, and that's what saved us. It literally hit the ice sheet over Michigan, and it just caught it like a catcher's mitt. And the ice that was ejected away from it was launched up and came back down just a little bit over like terminal velocity, because that's like an object falling free fall. But it would have been a little bit faster than that. But yeah, it's just the secondary effects of these things coming back down. And then hitting that unconsolidated sediment and then just getting locked in there like that.
Thus, they would be sort of shallow. Thus, they would be kind of shallow with the same sort of elevation.
Yeah, and there's also there's been a little bit of back and forth over the past couple of weeks. I've been in contact with a PhD in physics. He works he does something with ballistic modeling, computer modeling. And he contacted us and he's like, hey, I think that the only way that these ellipses can form like that is if the ice itself, blasted like airburst, right before making contact.
Oh,
and I could see that. I'm not going to, if he can back that with science, I'm totally on board. I'm like, yeah, I don't care how it happened. These are secondary effects regardless.
Yeah, but I mean, it could almost be if it's 2 miles in the air. Like those Laurentide was pretty high, so it almost is airborne at that point, right? When it's so high up.
Well, and this is like 1,500 kilometers. I mean, it's pretty far away from Michigan. The Carolinas, where all this unconsolidated sediment is a good launch distance away. But regardless, that stuff just going up and then coming back down, crashing into that unconsolidated sediment and then just getting locked in like that. It's just like kicking water at the beach. If you go to the beach and you kick water onto the shore, go look at it. I'll show you a picture in a minute. If you go look at it, it's literally scale invariant Carolina bays. They're tiny Carolina bays formed from water being kicked from your feet. You literally have the orientation, just like you see all these are pointed in the same direction. They all point right back towards the Great Lakes area. And on top of that, this is also pretty neat. If you go to Nebraska and a couple of the other states over there like Kansas, there are other elliptical shaped depressions just like the Carolina Bays, but they point in the other direction.
Oh, wow.
And they point back to the same location. They point back they point back to the Great Lakes area. Yep, there's a little bit of variation. It's probably because of the Coriolis effect and the severity of this impact. I think it was a big deal. Yeah.
Do we? So do these circle out from Michigan then? Do we see them sort of heading over into the east side of the Rockies and stuff like that?
No, they don't go that far. Towards the I guess south central Nebraska is about the extent of them. You can see in this image I have right here on the top middle, that's kind of where we find most of these Carolina bays. We've found other ones in between where you see like that gap between Nebraska and like Georgia. We have found some in there, but they're really hard to find. You got to really look for them. And it's probably because the ground is different. It's more clay. It's rocky. These really require unconsolidated sediment to form. And but we could find them. We found a couple of them in and out of there. Yeah, I mean, to me, that tells the whole story. And, the real, I guess this is kind of getting out in the weeds a little bit, but, if you look at the Michigan basin, if you look at the ground bedrock of Michigan, that's the picture of it on the top left there. And that's Michigan. That's the mitten of Michigan. And the bedrock is perfectly ring shaped. it's a basin, the explanation, the academic explanation of this basin is that it formed this way, that it formed these bowl shapes. And that goes against like geologic principles. That goes against the law of horizontality, where layers form flat. They form flat across these basins or across these aquatic environments because it's all sandstone. It's all formed from shallow marine ecosystems. They would have been flat terrain. And so at some point it was depressed, it was pushed down. And I think it was this event, which would have been about 7 or 8 ice ages ago. If
Oh,
it
that's
happened when
that's kind of what I was wondering. Yeah, like how many
Yeah.
ice ages ago was it? Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about that because it's again, that's where the timing comes in. If it happened at the Younger Dryas, then, which again, a lot of people think that, and again, that's kind of why I got involved and why I was speaking at the Cosmic Summit, anyways, is because of the Younger Dryas impact. And I thought it was part of the Younger Dryas impact, but when I focused on where they weren't along the coastlines, that's when I realized that there's no way, because if it was, we would find Carolina bays all the way up to the beach, like our current beach, because sea levels haven't risen higher than that beach, since the Younger Dryas. About 6,000 years is about how long the shorelines have been stable. And again, we don't find Carolina bays between like 30 feet to the sea level, and we should be able to see those all the way down to the beach, and we don't. And that made me think that, these have to be older. It was like a gut punch when I realized that, these things can't be Younger Dryas age. And I spent 2 years making videos about the Younger Dryas and and Carolina bays.
What's the variance in the elevation and the colors and the mitt of Michigan there?
I'm not sure. I do have access to LiDAR for Michigan. I'd have to go and look. It's pretty flat. I mean, again, it's been scoured over by the ice sheets. Every ice age, it just gets bulldozed over. Our last ice age was like a really severe ice age too, and so the terminal moraine from that has all kinds of old rocks all piled up in there.
Right. But
which is
the shape of it. It still shows you the shape of the elevation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and I mean, if you really want to go deep into it, this event really could have formed the Great Lakes. We think that the Great Lakes were formed at the end of the Ice Age. If you look up the literature, they're like, oh yeah, they just formed, but they could be 780,000 years or whatever. That's when we think that this event took place. We think it's part of a mid-Pleistocene transition event.
Wow.
Not a Younger Dryas event.
Have you heard about the human DNA manipulation at that exact time?
I have heard about that. Who talks about that?
Yeah, Bruce Fenton.
Right, yeah, Fenton. Yeah. And when I first heard him say that, I was like, hold on, what? But then I hear some of his stuff and I'm like, I can't get deep into this one. I can't bury myself in this rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, you know what? You should try it again, because it's the Tektite. He's got some evidence of Tektite bombs all over the place.
So we think that the Tektites came from this event. We think we think that this event hit Michigan, and the chemistry, the geochemistry of Tektites are very similar to the sandstones of Michigan, especially if you go as deep as the center, like you see where that pink color is on that picture there. That's like Jurassic Age sandstones, and the Tektites that we're finding in the A Tektites, the Asian Australian Tektites, the one that Fenton's talking about. It matches that Jurassic Age sandstone. So, and there's a guy that we talk with about all of this, and he used to work. He used to be an engineer for Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and he used like ballistic trajectories for nuclear missiles and things like that, and tracked it to Michigan, like those Tektites. It's basically the antipod of Michigan. Like if you look at where Michigan is and then go to the complete opposite end of the earth, that's where you find most of those Tektites.
Wow. So they're not like from a broken up crystal spaceship,
Maybe. I'm not going to knock it. But
I'm not sure if Bruce says that or not, but I know.
No, he does. I've heard that before.
Okay.
I have heard that.
It could be newer.
Well, again, there is always a chance. All I can say is that I'm pretty sure that they have to be older than 125,000 years ago. That's the Eemian, and that's the last interglacial that we had. And sea levels were higher during our last interglacial. They were about 30 feet higher. I live in coastal Georgia. I literally have a creek in my backyard that, at high tide, it's 2 or 3 feet above, where I'm at. I'm about 2 or 3 feet above sea level. And, sea levels then were about 30 feet higher. So they would have been over my house, and, we would have been underwater here. I forget, what was your question?
Oh, just if they could be newer, because I'm still stuck
Oh,
with
yeah.
the idea that when the ice sheet formed, that Hudson's Bay had to be at or near the pole.
Oh, Hudson's Bay. Yeah. And I'm gonna we're speculating. I'm speculating, but this event could have been so severe that that's what knocked those things off kilter. We do see right there at the mid-Pleistocene transition, we do see a change in the Milankovitch cycles. We see a change in the Earth's obliquity. The actual tilt changed, and we don't know why. Again, it's a mystery, and it happened right there at that mid-Pleistocene transition, around 800,000 years ago. There's a geomagnetic pole reversal that happened at that time, like the real one, like a major one that happened. Was 788,000 years ago, somewhere around there. It's all around that same ballpark for when we think this happened. And I think when we start to fine tune those things, I mean, we're still trying to figure out what happened 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, and so research into an event that's almost 800,000 years, we're like decades behind on getting answers for that.
Do you think so would these be, what would happen to, how could the ocean erodes these, but what about like inundation of water from the Younger Dryas event itself? Would like the washover have taken care of them, or that?
Yeah, I think we see that vertically, like the rivers. The rivers are huge. You guys have been with Randall many times hearing about the underfit rivers and things like that. Almost all the rivers in North America are underfit because a tremendous amount of water rushed down those rivers at some time recently, like within, probably the Younger Dryas time frame, or a little bit before that. And, other than that, they're pretty stable. These things are perfect at catching and holding water. I mean, that's what they're known for, is being swamps. Even though that word bay doesn't necessarily mean it's a water bay, they're actually called Carolina bays because of the bay trees that grow in them. It's swamps. A lot of them are really swampy. Not all of them. You can see in those pictures there. A lot of those are just, they're not. But yeah, they're really good at holding water. And the thing is some of these Carolina bays right on the coast that come up to the Eemian shoreline, they're like truncated in half. Like they were there whole, and the last time sea level rose, they were eroded in half. I can show you pictures of that too if you wanted to see those.
Yeah, I want to show you a comment from the chats there. Screwdriver Tuning says, I mean, he's talking about the old maps have no lakes, but he strongly disagrees with your timeline.
Yeah. He's one of my trolls. Yeah.
Oh, is he? Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
you bring your own trolls. I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He says erosional wash is the missing part. Ben Davidson says why. We just had Ben on the show.
I saw. Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
160,000 would line up with Ben. Yes, he says.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know his arguments already.
I am. Yeah. And I
just disagree.
I'll respectfully disagree about some. Yeah. I actually agree with him about a lot of things. But a lot of it too, I'm just like, I don't know, dude. So, and some of the big things too, like the sun micronovae, going into micronovas and things like that. I don't think we've seen that before. I think if we did, we wouldn't be here. Like we would be fried. Like it would completely fry. Have you ever seen like how big the Earth is compared to the sun? Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, those storms would envelop the Earth completely.
Yeah. And so for like something like that to just like pinpoint places on Earth, I don't think that's possible. I think it would just fry this planet. We wouldn't even. And that's George says, George Howard. He's like, the impacts are scary, but he's scared of a solar event way more than that. And that's true. If we were to get belched right in the face by a solar event like that, we'd just be done. It would just be over.
Wow. Isn't that kind of what the Bible and that talks about though? Like when we look at these myths where it went down to 40 breeding women, or where, I was just going through a thing collecting all the flood myths from around the world and sort of going on where the mythology says that people had to go to survive them. And it starts to get to like, crazy levels, right? It seems like, so, I mean, something big happens at some point, because the problem with the Younger Dryas is that explains, some coastal stuff, but you shouldn't really get a lot of crazy tidal action from that. You should have like
Well,
North
and that
Atlantic
and
and
the seas were so much farther away. They were so much farther away at the Younger Dryas. It's like 280 feet lower, you know.
Yeah.
So for crazy seas, we're talking about, I mean, it would have to be like stupid crazy, you know, and that's just, there's no evidence for that. Um, you know, that's kind of the bottom line. You just need evidence for a lot of this. And you know, there's just evidence lacking for some of these hypotheses. So
Has has the mainstream shifted at all? Their narrative on the Carolina Bays, has it shifted over the last few years? Like, are they coming around at all with anything?
so here's the crazy part. Like a lot of the mainstream academics that are into Carolina Bays are also, and the ones that think that they were wind and water created are also members of the Comet Research Group. And I've never, like, I can't understand that. Like these guys are 100% on board with impacts. You know, they've been following evidence for a Younger Dryas impact for a long time. You know, they are out there with, you know, with their pickets, and they're trying to get as much attention as possible about these Carolina Bays and or not. I'm sorry, not Carolina Bays, but the Younger Dryas. And they're totally against the Carolina Bays being a impact related. And there's a lot of pushback. When I got home from the Cosmic Summit, one of the Younger Dryas people there at the Cosmic Summit called me and was like really upset about the Carolina Bay talk that Zamora and I did. And I'm like, what do you mean? Why, you know, this is crazy. And then he started hitting the keyboards, and I was like, okay, this is getting nuts. But
Wow. Crazy.
yeah, it was ugly. And I was like, why are you being like that, dude? We're all trying to figure out the same thing, you know? And he just, and I was trying, I agreed with him. I was like, dude, I know the Carolina Bays are probably not part of the Younger Dryas. So why are you so upset? I'm trying to remove them from that timeline, you know, because I think if we are able to remove them from the Younger Dryas timeline, that it strengthens both of these hypotheses. Because there's so many people that, you know, they link the Carolina Bays to the Younger Dryas, that as soon as they hear one or the other, they're like, no, that's hogwash. I'm not listening. And like the Comet Research guy, you know, he wouldn't even read my paper, you know? And I was like, dude, how are you going to like call me and argue with me if you haven't even read the paper read the paper that I just published? You know, that's crazy talk. So that's the kind of stuff that we've been seeing with that. So the answer is no.
Drew Driver Turing does, he says, hopefully his trollness isn't that bad. He does appreciate your work.
No, I like him too. He gets like, he knows how to push my button.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So, I mean, the thing I do want to mention what he said, because I don't think I've ever heard this before. Mm-hmm. The electrical event would have been attracted to the copper. So I think he's talking about the Michigan copper mines that have been shown. Like, I can't believe how mainstream that knowledge was. I heard about it recently in the last few years with people talking about it. And then I was reading all these books from the 1800s that talk about it in detail, that the copper mines were so massive, from sort of mainstream books from the 1800s. So that was
we find copper artifacts, like Native American artifacts, on the islands here in coastal Georgia, that they know for sure came from the Michigan copper mines, the ancient Michigan copper mines. So yeah, it was very well known. Yeah,
that's fascinating. But to have it like associated with the sun or some electrical activity, I mean, that's
right. I think he's referring to like the Thunderbolt stuff. And I said, I just don't go down that. I've heard about it. I've read about it. But I can't get on board with that one, really.
Yeah.
Is that impact pretty well centered on the Great Lakes?
What's that now?
Is that impact, that pink dot on the screen, is that pretty well centered on the Great Lakes? It looks a little low, but
yeah. I mean, this is actually, that's the mitten. Like this right here is the mitten part of Michigan. So when you look at central Michigan, like this is central Michigan. This is the Great Lakes all the way around it.
Which pink dot are you talking about? Saginaw Crater, Darren? That one?
The one up, the Saginaw Crater one.
Yeah. That's Saginaw Bay of Michigan. Yeah. So it's basically the entire central part of Michigan is that basin.
Which is I think the impact happened, which is pretty close to the center of the Great Lakes. Like it's really close.
Yeah.
A little south, but
yeah. If I don't have a picture of it here, but if you want to, pull up a picture of Michigan, you could see, it basically, like you said, it like goes all the way around it.
Yeah. So there's where he's talking about right there.
Right. And you see where the Great Lakes are. It's almost like literally like a catcher's mitt, and that Michigan basin is right in the middle of it. I think that tells the whole story that there was an impact and it was the ice that saved us. I think otherwise it would have been, like the dinosaurs, we would have been gone. And if we go back to that timeline of 788,000 years ago, we do see a like 99% of our, Homo sapien ancestors DNA going extinct at that time. That's a division of Homo sapiens and the Neanderthals. Like
Wow.
the split of common ancestors was right then. And
Wow.
so something, there's also a benthic foraminifera extinction that took place then. Those are like microscopic organisms that live in the bottom of the ocean. Like that was a mass extinction. And those are the tiniest little things. What about all the other stuff that we don't have, really great evidence of yet, but I think it's there. I think they just have to start looking for it.
And that's still quite like recent. If you look at was because when the dinosaurs were supposed to be like 65 million, we're
Yeah.
talking not even a million years ago. So only
Mhm.
780,000. And is
Yeah.
that when Toba happened too? Or was that when I think somebody was mentioning, I thought one of those massive volcanoes was right around then too, but
I don't know. I'll have to,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You think it was at Toba or Tunga or
Tonga, no, Tonga maybe. No, not Tonga. I
Yeah.
thought it was Toba or, but
there's an interesting connection though with the Hunga Tunga, the eruption that happened I think it was last year, where it was an undersea eruption, and the ocean water and the ash from that eruption went all the way up to the stratosphere. I mean, it was a huge eruption, and the plasma arcing that was taking place in the stratosphere after that happened was, there's literally micro tektites that fell from that event that show plasma scarring all over them. And I think this might be where like the Electric Universe guys and things like that are tying it in, because there is plasma involved in these impact events or these huge volcanic eruption events. The AA tektites are covered in plasma scars. They're covered in, from being launched into the atmosphere, and they just get zapped and zapped. There's so much energy involved in one of these impacts that it does relate to that plasma that often gets brought up as part of the Electric Universe. And I don't know about the micronova stuff, but yeah,
that's fascinating.
so there's connections there.
Yeah, I was wrong. Toba, I was thinking 73,000 years ago is what it was. When Toba was. So, and not 780,000. Yeah.
So then it could be moving the crust around too when we get these big impacts.
Like I said, there was an obliquity change where we were having ice ages every 40,000 years. It was more frequently, so we had less ice accumulating during the ice ages. And then for some reason during the mid-Pleistocene transition, they stretched out to 100,000 year cycles, and we've pretty much had an ice age every 100,000 years since then, that have a tremendous amount of ice that come out of, that completely cover Canada and then retreat. Yeah. Yep.
Is there any evidence for other parts of the world on this timeline?
Well, I have a slide of different, the AA tektites I think is a big deal. Yeah. So I have, like I said, there's two different time frames that we're looking at: the Younger Dryas and then that mid-Pleistocene transition. I'll skip over like the Younger Dryas, and I don't want to really skip over it because there is still a chance. I'm not going to cross it off the list because there's a lot that we definitely know that something happened then, right? And I do agree with the Comet Research Group. I do think that they're doing some great work on that stuff. That black matte layer is important. The platinums that are finding everywhere is really important. They all kind of point back to there being a cosmic impact. We do have that Y chromosome bottleneck, and I think that's what you were talking about, Graham. The Amazon women, where all the guys just disappeared. We don't know why really, and there's evidence of that in the DNA. And then obviously the megafaunal extinction, and the real big one that Antonio Zamora thinks is a smoking gun is inverted stratigraphy, because we have actually found in the rims of some of these Carolina bays where they're using optically stimulated luminescence to date them, and you start going down the layers, and right around the Younger Dryas, there's a flop. There's an inversion of the dating, and he thinks that's really that's the actual impact of creating the Carolina bays themselves. I think that's more of like these are showing erosional events, and if you have a tremendous amount of wind blowing, especially during the Younger Dryas time frame when everything was crazy anyways, any wind that blew at night is not going to be locked in. Do you guys know how optically stimulated luminescence dating works?
No.
So they basically date the last time like sand grains, quartz grains were exposed to sunlight. It locks in a date of when they were last exposed. So, the dates that you see there are basically showing us the last time that it was exposed to sunlight. So it's really important how they collect their sediment. They basically take a core, not going straight down, but they go in horizontally into the layer to pull out their sand. And then they have to, in a dark room, extract the grains, and then they're able to test it and figure out when it was exposed to sunlight. And like I said, these are the dates that they get. And there is an inversion in some of these Carolina Bay rims. We found at least twice, 2 of them. And that's enough for me to say, you guys should check it out more for sure. We need to do as much research into these Carolina Bays as possible. But like I said, I think that if you have wind blowing at night, even, it's not going to lock in that grain that you just found, that if it blew at night, you're not going to see that. It's going to be the last time that it saw sunlight during the last erosional event. And I think that's what they're locking in, because they actually find like different dates as we go farther, deeper in time into the Pleistocene, about 100,000 years. But I think that the OSL dating, it's only good for around 300,000 years. And I think these Carolina Bays are older than that. So it's really difficult to find a way to age date them. And that's why I think the shorelines are so important, because those are dated and we do know when they were formed. And we find Carolina Bays that are, truncated from those shorelines being created. And which means that they had to have been there when those shorelines were there.
What about the pseudo Carolina Bays? Have they mucked up the?
Yeah, well, that's the pseudo Carolina Bays are basically the main.
That mucks up the science a bit, because now everybody can point to all these just ways to discredit what you're trying to do.
Yes, and it's coming from geologists that should know better, and that really bothers me. Like, at the Cosmic Summit last year, that was my whole presentation, was on pseudo Carolina Bays. It wasn't the Carolina Bays, because there's so many of those that they should be like the model for all the other depressions. And they're not. They'll go to like a group of lakes off the coast of Canada or Alaska and say, those are Carolina Bays. They're just forming. And it's like, no, those are thermokarst lakes. They're not Carolina Bays. They're different things. And there's never been proof of evidence or evidence of, permafrost in coastal Georgia or South Carolina, along the coast, like, ever. So,
is that intentional, or what? Why? Or there's just
no? I don't think it's intentional, but it sure is hard getting them to change their mind about any of it. Even like I said, I heard that from a woman who writes textbooks. Like, she writes geology textbooks. I literally own a lab that she wrote, and I'm like, there's no way that these are the same thing. There's the conditions aren't correct. And that's kind of where I get into it with, the difference is, for wind and water to create those, which is the dominant hypothesis for how these things formed. It would require the variables to be exactly the same every single time. And every fifth grader that's ever learned the scientific method knows how important variables are. Because if you screw up one thing in your experiment, it screws up, you get a completely different outcome. You're never going to get the same outcome. And, so to find these things over and over and over again, that would require the variables to be exactly the same over and over again. And I've used the word impossible. I'm like, that's impossible to happen.
You can't with wind and rain, right? You can't.
Yeah. You're never going to have the same exact variables. And even like the ground conditions are different. Like, we literally have Carolina Bays, elliptical shaped Carolina Bays, forming in sand. They're formed in clay. You find them in gravel. You find them in gravel areas up in Virginia. It's like, how could this be possible? But it goes to deaf ears. They just don't hear it. So
maybe they can't just, it's hard to keep up to the technology too, right? The dogma seems to follow behind technology for a while. So is there is there any other new technology you guys are using here besides LiDAR and stuff?
It's hard because, I don't have access to a lot of that stuff. I mentioned the guy who is, has the PhD in physics. He does computer modeling for ballistics, and he's been using some computer models that are pretty convincing. I've seen some computer models that he's done. I don't like using computer models. Like, I'd rather get a sand table and like I said, I can make a Carolina Bay at the beach in seconds just by kicking water onto the sand. I actually have a picture of that in here somewhere too. of just kicking water into the sand, and you can see these perfectly shaped Carolina bays. It's a pretty long.
Yeah, that's okay. Take your time. Yeah.
Yeah, here's some of those pseudo Carolina bays. Again, these are those thermokarst lakes we were talking about, and these are up in Alaska. They're literally right next to the Arctic Ocean, and they have directionality. These are perfect oriented lakes. They're great. They're great examples, but none of them are perfect ellipses. There may be an argument made for like one or two. That would be great, but we're talking about thousands.
Make sense if it was only one or two.
Yeah. This is a great oriented lake, and that's what they're saying that these are. Again, these are Carolina bays. This is close to McEntire Air Force Base in South Carolina, and you see all those perfectly shaped elliptical depressions, just like cookie cutter punches into the terrain there. They're all, and there's a bunch of them too. The Playa Lake chains, we find these in Texas, like around Amarillo. They've been referred to as Carolina bays. Like, oh, these are just the same thing as these Playa Lakes, and it's like, no, they formed differently. They formed as water seeps into the ground and it dries up, and then you have this happens over and over again seasonally, and usually they form in river valleys because you have periodic flooding, and that's when these Playa Lakes form.
Right.
But it's different. It's not the same thing as these Carolina bays these are the Playa Lakes that are in Amarillo. In fact, that is Amarillo right here. I keep using my arrow. I'm sorry. I know you guys can't see it. But there is Amarillo. It's like right in the middle of that picture. And that's what the terrain looks like around Amarillo. Those are Playa Lakes. Those aren't Carolina bays. They're not created by impact. These are created by, periodic rainfall and settling, and things like that. But not the same thing as these Carolina bays that we find along the coast of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and across into Nebraska too, because there is unconsolidated sediment over there as well.
Has anybody ever mapped like the splash zone, like what a splash zone would be for a map? Like, I'm just trying to picture like on a big ice block, a massive burning rock hitting it, and then it's just splashing little bits of water and ice everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. There has been a guy. There was a guy that was doing some computer modeling, but he kind of vanished. I don't know what happened to that guy. He was really helpful for a while, and then I think the Carolina Bays got to him.
Yeah, because you wonder how far, how heavy would the impact have to be, or how much velocity, or
yeah. And Antonio Zamora has done some good work on that too, and he kind of abandoned it too. He had some really good numbers, and again, I mentioned that I think this impact would have been on par with the dinosaur killer. I think it would have been on par with the Chicxulub crater impactor. The biggest difference is that it didn't hit a shallow sea; it hit an ice cap, or it hit an ice sheet. And that ice is really good at absorbing that material. I mean, you guys have seen glaciers, and you see how it bends and folds and things like that as it's moving its way down a valley. These are sheet glaciers. It's like pouring a frozen pancake batter on top of Canada. It's formed. That's a bad analogy, because it's actually formed by layers of snowfall that get compressed, and they get, it builds up and it gets compressed, and builds up and it gets compressed. And that becomes very absorbent. It's going to really soften the blow of something, like an impact. And then you have the ejecta afterwards, which is what I think formed these Carolina Bays. That's the picture right there of just beach water, going to the beach and kicking water. All have the exact same. They have the raised sandy rims. They have the elliptical shapes, and they all have orientation right back to where we kicked that water.
Oh, I think that's a great example.
Yeah, I think this is the exact same thing that we're seeing with these Carolina Bays, except it was an impact, and that was frozen ejecta that was launched and came back down. I mean, that's, yeah. I don't know how else. These certainly weren't oriented lakes, and that should have been an easy one to knock off the list, and it hasn't been. So,
I like it.
Neat looking.
It's amazing the LiDAR, what a difference the LiDAR makes, right? So all those different colors are elevations, or what?
Yeah. So what? They're all done by one guy. He basically takes, his name's Michael Davies, and he's big into the Carolina Bays. He actually is the one who made the Carolina Bay Survey. He changed the name like last year to the Ovoid Basin Survey, because he was included like the Playa Lakes and things like that.
Too much baggage with Carolina Bays. Huh?
Yeah, well, that, and he has a different hypothesis on how they formed. He doesn't think that they were formed as secondary ejecta like I do. He thinks it was more of like a he calls it an a cavitated ejecta regolith blanket. It's like a mixture of pulverized sandstone and glacial meltwater that just kind of washed over the area. And he thinks these Carolina bays were like pop bubbles from this blanket of glacial ice and sandstone, crushed sandstone. I think there may have been some of that closer to Michigan. I don't know about all the way down into the Carolinas and Georgia. I'm pretty sure that these were secondary impacts. But what did you say right before that? What was the?
I think it was just talking about the depth of the things.
Yeah.
What color is how deep?
Oh, the colors. That's right. Yeah. So what he's done, is he's taken the USGS LiDAR and put his own color palette to them. So every 1 meter is a different color, and they repeat every 10 meters. So have y'all ever used a topographic map before, where you see all the lines, the repeating circular lines, or I guess connecting lines? Each line represents so many meters, and it's going to have an index on there that's going to tell you what each line represents. It's usually like 5 meters or 10 meters or whatever. And then you have like an index contour, which is, every 20 meters or every 100 meters or whatever it happens to be. And it's always going to be labeled on that map. What he's done is he's taken every meter is a different color, and then it repeats every 10 meters. So anytime you see red like that, it starts at blue at the ocean. And then you can go work your way up from the ocean and see all the different colors as we're going through. And then next time you see red, that's 10 meters up. And you see it again, that's 20 meters up, and then 30 meters up. And you can do that with any of the colors. So it is kind of really neat. It confuses some people, especially if they're used to seeing grayscale LiDAR. I think this is the only way to view these Carolina bays or anything on the coast. So I found all kinds of cool, like Native American sites and things like that, burial mounds that aren't known to the databases and things like that. From using this kind of LiDAR, I think this is the only way to do it, to be honest. And it's free too. If you go to centos.org, you could just go on there, you can download it, and it pulls right up with your Google Earth Pro, and off you go. Anybody can use it. So that was centos.org.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you spell that? CINTOS?
That's it. Yep.
CINTOS. Do we know what? I mean, why was the ice age happening every 40,000 years? What is the mechanism for it?
I think it's the Milankovitch cycles. We have that the eccentricity, the obliquity, and the precession of the axis, right? And I know you guys have learned a lot about precession with Randall Carlson and the Great Year and all that kind of stuff. But it's that axial tilt. Something must have changed to the axial tilt of the Earth 800,000 years ago, 788,000 years ago, somewhere around there, that caused it to change. It caused it to have longer ice ages. But
still, what is the mechanism for the ice age to set in, especially like someplace in Canada where it's kind of nice half of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Or does that just work out that?
Yeah, I think
that doesn't really line up with that precession. So it seems like it's almost sort of randomized in some way. If it was every 25,000 years, then I could say, okay, well, it's whenever we're on that back swing of the precession, the seasons get slower.
And I don't think these like decade-long timelines, it kind of comes and goes. I think that may have a lot more to do with the sun. Because it's all about the Earth's relationship with the sun, right? And that's something that we've ignored in science for a long time, which is kind of silly that we, ignore the sun forever, and they just blame everything on carbon and, CO2 and our soccer moms driving SUVs and all that. But it's all about the Earth's relationship with the sun. And it does cause us to go in and out of ice ages whenever things line up just right. Whenever we're far enough away from the sun, we're also tilted away from the sun during the wintertime. Because that changes right now. The the northern pole is actually farther away from the sun when we're in wintertime. I think I'm saying that right. It's all about the precession of the sun. It's all about the obliquity, the axis angle.
Well, I was watching one of your. It's sort of to do with Darren's question too, but I was watching one of your videos, and you were talking about meltwater pulse 1A and B, I guess, or I can't remember exactly the names of them, but I thought those are far enough apart that it's almost like a lot of the
Hmm.
ancient structures and stuff we see with solar alignments and lunar alignments. And it seems like they knew about a cataclysm and they were measuring where the suns and the seasons were and all that. It almost feels like it was between the two. It could be between the two meltwater pulses. Like, what if what if there was a massive flood? Then they, then they kind of regrouped, survived, and then started measuring it. And then the second one came, the meltwater pulse 1B or whatever.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't,
Are they 1,000 years apart almost?
Fifth, I think I seem to think 1500 or something, but I mean, longer, quite a, not just a couple hundred years. It was over 1,000.
and I think meltwater pulse 1A was the Bowling Alderod area, where it got really warm really fast too, right? And then we were actually cooling off. It went back down to normal. So something happened. I know, Randall talks about this too, but something happened at the Bowling Alderod that caused it to like spike in temperatures. And then it kind of went back to normal. And then we hit the Younger Dryas time frame and went way back down. We were in that ice age for another 2,000 years.
It's
about
okay.
1,200. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was quite a while. It was over 1,000 years.
Yeah. From the Bowling Alderod to then. Yeah.
Then you get the other weird things like the death pits in Alaska where there's all these different species crammed on top
isn't that crazy?
of each other.
Yeah.
And you sort of mix that in with the mammoths they find that have like undigested buttercups or whatever still frozen.
Right. Yeah. And I think all that stuff dates up
and cold fast. It's like, I don't know. It almost seems that like anything could happen at any time, and it's a miracle it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. And that, those cycles very well could be, I think the sun may be responsible for a lot of that. The thing about the Younger Dryas, though, is we do find evidence of impacts at that time. And even with what I'm talking about here with the mid-Pleistocene transition, we find evidence of a major impact. Those AA tektites were formed by an impact. And we don't know where the crater was. We don't know where that impact, and it was big enough to launch, melt glass over half the world. I mean, or at least like a fourth of it, that whole area of Asia. I mean, it literally that from South Asia all the way down to Antarctica. Australia. And I'm sure they're just peppered across that ocean down there. And they do find them in the layer, they're buried under sediment, things like that there, but we do find them along the beaches and things like that in these Asian countries. And there was an impact that happened at that time. We know that, and it's just where did it happen and what was the rest of the effects. And I think the Carolina Bays were part of that event, part of the effects of that one. So they're both interesting. They're both really cool, and like you said, the meltwater pulses 1A, 1B, and what was going on at the beginning, at the end of the Younger Dryas, there was a lot of stuff happening, during that time. And we've been super lucky.
Well, there's this whole weird fucking Antarctica angle to it all too, where it's the Nazis seem to have got wind of something and started looking into all this weird esoteric stuff and heading to Antarctica. And then 70 years later, it's like all these countries have made a deal that no one could go to Antarctica because I don't know, it's too dangerous or something. It's like something's going on down there. You guys are fucking up to something. I don't know, but do you have? I guess that doesn't really cross with any of your stuff, but there seems to be evidence that Antarctica didn't have ice on it at some time too.
Yeah. Well, we know that there has been. That's actually where the graph that I have on the page right now. This came from a collaboration of ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica. Greenland only goes back so far, and then it gets picked up by Antarctica that goes back around 800,000 years. So I'd be interested to know, when Antarctica was free of ice the last time. Yeah, it could have been. Like I said, I think this impact, as we get more and more into it, we're going to see that it was a dot to the eye of Earth. I think it caused the Earth to flinch a little bit. And some of the things that, you guys were talking about recently on one of your podcasts, that, the water sloshing around and things like that. It could be this kind of event that took place that caused that to happen. So
can you walk us through these graphs? Because it really shows the cycles on here, right?
Yeah. This is the ice core data that goes back 800,000 years. What they're using it for what they're getting out of it is marine oxygen isotopes. And we're right now in marine oxygen isotope 1, stage 1. and that's on the left side of the graph there. That's today. That's our current interglacial. And if you go down that line, that's the peak of our last ice age around 25,000 years ago when we had, a couple miles of ice on top of Canada. And then if you keep going backwards, you see the last interglacial. That's the last time sea levels were higher than today. And you can see that on that graph. You can actually see that. And the bottom graph, by the way, is also sea level. It's showing sea level changes.
So it looks like it warms up fast and then gradually gets colder.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're unfortunately, it looks like we're at the end of a cycle there, or at the start of a new one.
But the good thing is it cools down slowly. I mean, is that spike that we're looking at the Younger Dryas?
No, actually, you don't even see the Younger Dryas in this graph. It would be, it was a minor compared to these swings from deep ice age to the peaks of the interglacials. It was kind of a minor event, which is like what? But this is showing like those molecular cycles. It's showing the Earth's relationships and going in and out of these ice ages. And but you're right, though. Those peaks don't last very long, and we've been at this peak for 10,000 years already. And when it does start dropping,
well, I'm more interested in that it gradually gets colder. It looks, or no?
Yeah, I don't see that.
So does this go from left? This goes from right to left, right? So it looks like it goes from being real cold, then it gets hot quick, then it sort of works. It's
left to right. Left to
right.
Oh, so we're at the right now, or
we're at the left. Left is zero. We're at zero, age 0 right now. So we're at the top on both those graphs. We're at the top of the peak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is kind of scary because it looks like we're at the end of the beginning of the cycle.
I guess it's the opposite of that. Then it gets cold fast.
Yeah. It's kind of the same. It goes up and down really quick around this time. So I don't, it's relative too.
Yeah.
It's relative because that could be 1,000 years. That could be 2,000 years. And that's, I don't want to be like alarmist or anything like that, but we are going to end. It's a cycle. We are going to go back into an ice age. And that's kind of the part that drives me crazy with the whole, climate issue debates and things like that. It's like, it's climate's always changing. We can't stop it. It's going to go back down eventually. And then how do you feed 8.2 billion people? That's the key, and that's what's the most scary out of all of it is I don't trust people. Solar flares and micronovas and things like that. It's the people I'm worried about. We were talking beforehand about carrying pistols. That's what scares me. So
yeah, I don't blame you. That east side is something else. It really is. I don't know how people. It's like going into a different world when you're coming from the west. It really is.
Yeah.
Because we talk about it all the time, Chris, where we're driving either south or west from or east from where we are, and it's literally days. Like you can drive 2 days, and all you do is go through Salt Lake City or maybe like to get down to Arizona. Like there's one big city, kind of like days without seeing anything, without hardly seeing people. Then you go east, and it's like you're just jam packed all in there. All in there, town after town after town.
Yeah, and it's like that here too. Like I live in Georgia, and like you basically have Atlanta, which is huge. And then you have the rest of Georgia. And then, Atlanta controls everything that we do down here in coastal Georgia. And it's like, what? Come on.
So when you say coastal Georgia, you're on the east, like you're on that little stretch of, okay, I see. Yeah. You don't seem to have too much of a coast though. Atlanta, right? Or Georgia compared to Florida. Or
what are you looking at?
Oh, just my own map. I always have a map.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I live right on the coast. So, and it's north of Jacksonville too. So, we got quite a bit of coastline here. So yeah, if the sea levels rise, we're kind of screwed. But again, I think the sea level is done its rising. I think it's kind of settled, and it's been settled for about 6,000 years. And eventually it's going to start going back down. And, that's what I think we need to be most prepared about. But,
the interesting the thing I think about is that if Hudson's Bay did move, that the thing that might have upset the cycles is you would have went from having land at each of the poles, which would allow for a lot more ice to build up.
Yeah.
And what we have now is where we have this sort of basin for the North Pole to sit at. So none of the weight is actually sitting on the crust. It's redistributed by all this ocean water.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's over land, you have these giant ice sheets that build up and weigh trillions of tons. And and it gets sort of weird. So I wonder if that can explain the difference in the different cycles now. If from it going from, because it got longer, right? We stay warmer longer now. Went from 40,000 to 100,000. Does the ice age last longer, or does it?
They last longer. Yeah, the ice ages are lasting longer. I don't know if we have data that goes back over 1 million years when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's seafloor data that I haven't even looked at that we can use, but I don't know.
The seafloor data starts to get weird too, because you
It
start
does.
looking at that, and the stuff that's supposed to be the oldest turns out to be the newest, and then you're
Yeah.
like, well, what do we fucking do with this now? Let's just shut
Yeah.
up. Let's just go home.
Well, do you have any more questions about your theory, Darren? Darren's kind of been working up a theory about the Hudson's Bay and the magnetic pole shifts and stuff.
Yeah, and I look into this time frame, look into the mid-Pleistocene transition, because again, we know that there was a big impact there. We don't know we technically don't know where it happened. I think it's Michigan, and that could have been a big enough impact to knock us off kilter and change the poles. Again, we see that change. We actually see a change in the Milankovitch cycles at around that time, and so
And Darren, that's pretty close to your Hudson's Bay. I mean, it's just south of it.
Yeah. Because you're right. That
well,
was.
I mean, I wasn't looking at Hudson's Bay as I was just saying it looks like Hudson's Bay is just sort of the closest marker, because it's just like
But isn't there evidence to suggest that was the North Pole at some time, like right over?
Well, yeah,
there
seems to be evidence to suggest that, which
Yeah.
which puts me down the path of saying, okay, so if the evidence is that the only way that, because then it's like that's how the Laurentide ice is, in my opinion, I go straight to that's how the Laurentide ice sheet formed, because it was at the fucking North Pole. So it just makes sense that it would look like Antarctica looks like at the South Pole.
I think you're right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But then if I extrapolate that out, then how do I explain the ice sheets that mainstream science said were in the Sahara and in the Andes and stuff like that? Because then it goes to the point of like, okay, well, if I'm saying that the only way these places can get ice sheets is from being at the pole, it starts to look like over the last, and it's not quick, but it's over the last few million years we've been sort of moving around all over the place, and you could which would spin me to the
I think I don't know, I think the geographic North Pole has been pretty stable. Like I said, the mid Pleistocene transition would have been a time where if it did change, that it probably did, but we're using all kinds of things to look at that. I don't know.
Well, it also lines up because the magnetic North Pole seems to be running away from
from
there.
Right. And I think it's always doing that too, with the mantle and all that. It's never been like permanently stable. But
my theory would get to the point that because I think there's the most gravity at the poles too, right? That's where the gravity is the strongest, at the poles.
Is it, or is it the equator?
That's what it is. No, it's at the poles, because the equator, I don't know, for some reason it's less. Because we're bulging at the equator, right?
Well, that's why I would think it would be more, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
So that bulge would expand you, which makes it less dense. So it's a little less. I don't know, but I was looking at that because you've got this isostatic rebound happening in Hudson's Bay, and I was like, that could be just because it's got X% less gravity on it.
No, I think that's got to do with the ice. That's going to be you guys are heading to the Azores.
Oh yeah, we got something about that.
Yeah. And in fact, I needed to tell Graham, that you did a great job representing the Azores at the Cosmic Summit during the debate. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
But yeah, that it's really interesting too, because when I first learned about isostatic rebound, I was taking graduate level courses, and it's the exact same time that Randall went on with Joe Rogan in 2015. It's like his first appearance there, and I think he was talking about the Azores and Atlantis and the isostatic rebound, and that was the first time I was like, ooh, this guy might be onto something. I'm going to pay attention a little bit more, and here we are today. But yeah, I think that you guys are going to see some really cool stuff over there. That'll be cool.
Yeah. So talk to, you've been there before. How many? A couple times or?
No, my grandmother, her family was from there. They're actually from one of her parents was from Sao Miguel, the other one's from Fayal, and so we went and did like a cultural family trip. And it was actually we originally planned to do it, and it was right. It was during 2020, and it was COVID knocked all those plans out of kilter. And so we ended up going like 2 years later. But yeah, we spent a week on San Miguel. Are you guys going to San Miguel?
Yes, we're there
Oh.
for 3 days in San Miguel, 7 days on 6 days on Tercera, and then 3 days on Pico.
That's going to be awesome. Did I hear you going to Furnas?
Yeah.
Right away we go to Furnas. Yeah.
You got to go into the hot springs, man. They are awesome. They're pretty. They're cool. They're cool. And there's a couple of hot springs too that are a little bit farther west on the island that are lesser known. Those are really cool. The hot springs, like the baths, they're neat, but there's a ton of people there. If you go to the ones closer to the west coast of San Miguel, less people, and it's really kind of neat.
So what are the people there? What's the culture like? Do they talk about Atlantis? Do they believe in it?
No, they don't. Well, I think you have to know the right people to ask, I guess, because I'm sure the people that live there that are into Atlantis will tell you all about it. and I'm sure you guys have made connections over there already, and they're ready to tell you all about it. The people that like, if I even brought it up, they kind of like, what are you talking about? But that's just the way it is sometimes. I will say, like, we went to Pico, and that's where there's those pyramid structures there. That's like a spiral shaped pyramid. And I don't think that those are like Ice Age old. I think that that's more recent. I think it's more of like colonial farmers trying to just clear the field, so they can grow grapes there. And I think they were just stacking them. I didn't have a feeling of like, this is ancient. I had more of a feeling like this is like colonial people trying to get rid of these rocks because they're everywhere. The whole island is covered in black, basaltic rock. So I wasn't sure about that one, but I got the feeling in a couple places there. So I don't know. But it's all the stuff that's under the waves.
There's some dolmens apparently, and the cart ruts. I mean, actually, I'm surprised there's so many papers. I have a list of maybe 12 papers talking about pre-Portuguese settlement there, or at least evidence of people before the Portuguese. So.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah, and I did not go to. Would you say I can't even say that this Tercera? Yeah. We didn't. We were supposed to have a layover there, and it was supposed to be like 8 hours. And I was going to rent a car and go check out all that stuff. And they ended up giving us a direct flight, and they thought they were doing me a favor. But I was like, I really wanted to go check those cart ruts. But
I think that's one of the. Well, I mean, we're spending the most time there. I haven't been there, so I'm just, we've got a guy there that does it for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. People can still get tickets for that at contact@thecabin.com. And then we got another trip with Randall coming up next May as well. If people want to get up in that, looking up at Lake Chelan area of northern Washington. And then we also have Easter Island trip coming up. If people want to check that out. And
that'll be cool.
Around the Serpent Mount at solstice. We're at the Serpent Mount next summer solstice for an event. So you can check all that stuff out if they want to do something.
Awesome.
Yeah, this has been great. We appreciate you coming to the show. It's nice to meet you down in the States. Looks like you had a nice trip after that. Did you do the trip right after that?
Yeah, like we used Greensboro as our launching pad. So I originally planned like this whole summer trip, and then George changed the date of the Cosmic Summit this last year. He pushed it up or back a week or something, and I was like, so I had to like reposition my whole trip, and I ended up launching from Greensboro. We went up to Mammoth Caves. We spent a couple days there. We went up to the Badlands, which was awesome. We ended up out at Yellowstone for like a week. We wanted to spend, and that wasn't even enough time. Like we ended up, 5 days, and we still didn't see everything. So that was cool. But yeah, it was a really great trip. We had a good time. Yep.
Are you excited about any new technology to help your work at all, or to see, to make Joe? Because I mean, we've seen a big difference LiDAR makes. Is there anything else on the horizon you're excited about?
So I've been in contact with a guy who runs a he's using AI for like geographic surveying. And he wants to test his system on Carolina Bays and just to see if he can get his system to do what we were doing with the actually proving that the bays are elliptical, and just doing AI to do it. Just like, hey, this is what they do. Go do it on all these Carolina Bays, and they could pop these things out by the thousands, and that would be great. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, and that people that are into the AI stuff. I mean, there's probably somebody listening to this right now that's like, easy. Well, let's do it. Let's get the the hive mind of the computer to solve all this for us, and let's roll with it because I'm tired of doing it, guys.
Yeah.
Wow.
I need to be going on these trips to the Azores and to Easter Island and things like that. Carolina Bays is getting boring.
Well, we can figure something out. You just let us know.
Yeah.
We can get you along on something. Chris, this has been fantastic. Where can everybody find all your work?
I have stuff on YouTube and on TikTok. I just don't use it as much anymore. I need to get back on there when I have more time. I'm on X. It's Dabbler's Den, and you can find me there.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Come back anytime, and I can't wait to see you again.
Yes, sir. You guys have a good one.
Thanks, buddy.
And
all right.
I'll be thinking about you when I'm out hunting.
Yes, I'm jealous. I'm going to be living vicariously. I want to see post pictures. I got to see this your elk and your moose or whatever you tag.
Sounds good, brother. Have a good night.
All right, guys. Later.
And that was our chat with Chris Cottrell, Carolina Bays as secondary impact structures. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's fun to tie all that stuff together. See if we can't get the bigger picture going. Big thanks to Chris for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks if you're one of the few who choose to support us over at grimerica.ca/support. We are value for value. So if you are getting some value from the show, please do send some value back our way at grimerica.ca/support. You can also check out grimericaoutlawed.ca for other podcasts. Contact at thecabin.com for trips and events and all that sort of fun stuff we were talking about there. Adultbrain.ca for audiobooks, ebooks, print books too, if you're into that. And gramericacbd.com for gummies, tinctures, and all that sort of fun stuff if that floats your boat. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
I'm walking gingerly through the rat race. Take a look at the big old smile on my face. Kicking around down by the pool of narcissists. The people are many, they preen themselves, oh how they navel gaze. Somewhere over that hill, the gloomy skies cease to exist. I'm climbing that hill, I pass by and pity the poor Sisyphus. I go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. I'm strolling down a static electric avenue. The people are predictable, they say good morning, how do you do? When out of nowhere, a randomly pure angel in the crosswalk bumps into me. And in doing so, knocks all the evil and all the wind out of me. And it's black as tar, ugly as ever, and of no apology. This angelic mama sings heavenly of the truest theology. Together we're a seraphim dream, forever young with no chronology. 1,000 years from now we'll be written into ancient mythology. We go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. Can you tell me about the view up there? It's sparkling remarkably, the air is crystal clear. Well, please won't you tell me what it takes to transcend this place? A little bit of heart and a whole lot of soul. Take a look at the big old smile on my face. As my angel says, dance with me and your life will never, ever, ever be dull. I go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. 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 Turn into a beam of light.